The modern day It saga has come to a close. That means today I'm going to stop and rank all 3 It movies, the 2 current films, plus the 1990 miniseries, from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place, and consider clicking that subscribe button. Also, with that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the It films. This should be pretty interesting because a bunch of people love this current set of It films, and a bunch of people have a lot of nostalgia for the 1990 miniseries. One more thing before we get started. You can download the audiobook of It for free if you use my link down below, audibletrial.com/Sean Chandler, and sign up for a free Audible trial. If you like to get the most bang for your buck when you get free trials, the It audiobook is 45 hours long. Audible has a massive library of hundreds of thousands of audiobooks to choose from. I'm a massive fan of Audible. If you're someone that doesn't like to read with your eyes, I do recommend trying out Audible, and you can do so for free at audibletrial.com/Sean Chandler. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is Stephen King's It, the TV miniseries from 1990. There are quite a few things about this that are quite good. First off, you have to talk about Tim Curry as Pennywise. His interpretation is totally different from Bill Skarsgård, from the accent that he chooses to use, his mannerisms, his facial expressions, what makes him creepy and what makes him funny are all totally different from what worked for Bill Skarsgård. As I was watching it, my wife walked in and she actually goes, "Wow, Pennywise is actually pretty funny in this one." And then he did something else. She was like, "Okay, no, he's still creepy," and left the room quite quickly. But beyond Tim Curry, most of the cast here is quite good. I mean, you've got Harry Anderson, John Ritter, Annette O'Toole, Jonathan Brandis, even Seth Green is one of the young losers in the film. And it just kind of gives a little bit more credibility to something that could just be written off as this nearly 30-year-old TV movie. Like, no, they actually got a pretty good cast for this thing. But there really are quite a few problems here. Starting things off, this was a made-for-TV miniseries in the year 1990, and that means where there's no graphic violence, there's no adult language, there's no sexual content, and you feel that as you're watching this, especially when it comes to the kills. Every time Pennywise is about to kill someone or something, it just kind of zooms in on his face with teeth coming out, and then it zooms on their scared face, and then it cuts to something else. And so it just takes away the bite, quite literally, from a lot of these attacks. And so you don't feel the horror of what is happening so much when you're not actually seeing him eat people and things like that. Another problem here is that just the ambiance, the aesthetic, isn't particularly scary. There's little things like the balloons in the current version are all red, and that just kind of has a creepy vibe to it here. Sometimes they're yellow, sometimes they're green, sometimes they're red. But just that atmosphere around it, the look of Pennywise, the costume that he's wearing has too many colors inside of it. It's just not as scary. So even when kills happen in certain images, the way that they're portrayed with the specific lighting, they can come off a lot cheesier than they do scary. And then finally, both halves of it I felt were very anticlimactic, as you have this 3-hour-long, 27-year spanning story, and each of the kind of climaxes in each half play out in under 6 minutes before you have to get to the next commercial break. There's nothing particularly epic about them. Some of the special effects, especially in the second part, are not particularly good, do not hold up very well. And so it just kind of feels like you have something that at times transcends the limitations of being a TV miniseries from 1990, but for the most part, you perpetually feel the limitations of what this is. Our runner-up is It Chapter 2. I'll kick things off talking about the good, and the cast here is just bonkers good. You absolutely believe every single one of these adults is the grown-up version of the kids from the first film. Bill Hader is one of the standouts here who gets a lot of the funny parts, but he also gets emotional at times. James McAvoy kind of felt to me a little bit like the heart of the story. He carries a lot of the emotional weight throughout the course of the whole film, but all of them I thought did a really nice job with the material, with the rapport, the chemistry of all of them. I just still love the Losers Club, even now that they are grown up. From there, you feel feel that this is also a bigger story. Some of that is they probably had a bigger budget. Some of that is the nature of kind of digging into the backstory, the history of everything, the scope, scale, size of the final battle. Everything about this movie has a grander scheme to it. Part of that being that you dig into the mythology deeper as well of who Pennywise is, where he came from, that history and everything. I enjoyed a lot of those things inside of the film. And also there's some really nice direction throughout the entire film. In particular, the way the director kind of really thought through how to transition from one scene to the next. Like at the beginning of the film when they're introducing each of our characters as they are grown up, it transitions just smoothly from each one of them to the next one to the next one. Likewise, they do this in the middle act when there's a section where people are kind of walking around and having some flashbacks. It doesn't like have these hard cuts or cheesy transitions. It just smoothly goes from one time period to the next, and I really appreciated that about the film. But the middle act of this film is just a total mess of cyclical storytelling. What I mean by that is for about an hour straight of the movie, they have someone go somewhere, they have a flashback of their past, they face Pennywise, and then they learn something about themselves. And this repeats itself literally about 6 or 7 times in a row, and that obviously feels repetitive when you have the exact same template happening so many times in a row inside of the film. But beyond that, the scenes don't build the story forward. And so what ends up happening is you can take any of these sequences and put them in any order, and it wouldn't really change the story at all because one scene isn't setting up the next. They're just a bunch of random scenes that all kind of happen in the same middle block of the film. And when you do something like that, it means that your story doesn't feel like it has forward momentum or urgency or like we're moving towards something. We're just kind of going through these circles in repeat throughout the entire middle act of this film. Now, I understand that they were trying to develop the characters and help us understand them as a child and adult a little bit better, but it just felt like the laziest possible way to do that, to just repeat the same thing 6 times in a row. And it's a movie that as I got to the end of it, I just don't understand how this movie is nearly 3 hours long. My friend Cody Leach said it this way: it's a movie that feels like they left all of the deleted scenes in. And there was a whole lot of deleted scenes. Still, I've been picking on this middle act a whole lot, but it does a lot of things really well, but that middle act was just too much. But easily coming in first place is It 2017. This is a movie that just captures the awkwardness and camaraderie of tween boys so well. The way that they actually kind of riff on each other, pick on each other, but actually really care. And one of the reasons that it works better than most stories trying to capture this is that they set up a great set of characters that capture a lot of different personality types. And when you put it all together, you feel like you're hanging out with an actual group of people that all of them have their flaws, all of them have their things that make them likable, and you enjoy being around them. The other one you got to talk about here is Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, who just they do such a great job of giving him of a weirdly charismatic, likable sense of humor inside of it, while also immediately making him terrifying, creepy. There's always something a little bit off about him. Even when he's in the middle of a conversation with a kid and smiling at them, you're always like, oh, something is very wrong here. Whether you're just talking about the way that his eyes look around, the nature of how big his grin is, of course, his exaggerated features in certain ways, but he does an amazing job with the characters. Even the way they make him move in certain sequences, it's creepy. One thing that I think this film does much better than either Chapter 2 or the original miniseries is just create this terrifying atmosphere from beginning to end, where you feel like our characters are in danger the entire film. Some of this comes from the fact that they established the world in the first 20 minutes of the film as being a city that is very messed up, and a movie that's not afraid to show it. You have a child having their actual arm bitten off, and they show his arm being removed and the child in absolute terror as he knows he's about to die. That is harsh to put that on screen. But then you just jump forward 10, 15 minutes inside the film and you have a bully take out a knife and start carving letters into a child's stomach, which makes the humans in the story just as terrifying as Pennywise himself. And you feel this city is actually dangerous because horrifying things are happening and the parents, the adults, don't seem to care. There's something about the way this film was able to do that I don't think the other two captured the terror that is the city of Derry. But when you populate it with these characters that you enjoy being around, the movie actually has this sense of humor, and so it can cut the tension just enough in organic ways that you enjoy the ride, you're laughing at times, but you're also just scared as anything to be inside of this city with these kids. That's how you make an effective coming of age story, also a terrifying horror story. So it comes in at number 1. If you want to dig deeper into the world of Pennywise, you can download the audiobook of It for free. That link down below, audibletrial.com/Sean Chandler. If you want me to talk about more horror franchises, check out that playlist right over there with my ranking of a bunch of the top horror franchises. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.